The Texas English Dialect by Rebecca Norris, Giovanna Mondi, and Maya DeMoncos. The Texas English dialect is primarily spoken in Texas and some areas around it. Over 30 million people speak this dialect. Although the Texas dialect is very similar to the Southern dialect, it has certain characteristics that differentiate it from others. Here's our dialect sample. This language sample is from a 60-year-old man from Amarillo, Texas and Austin, Texas. He shows aspects of the North Texas dialect and represents a lot of nasal quality in his voice.
She felt stressed. She ate a bowl of porridge, checked herself in the mirror, and washed her face in a hurry. Then she put on a plain yellow dress and a fleece jacket, picked up her kit, and headed for work. When she got there was a woman with a goose waiting for her. The woman gave Sarah an official letter from the vet. The letter implied that the animal could be suffering from a rare form of foot and mouth disease, which was surprisingly, because normally you would only expect to see it in a dog or a goat. Sarah was sent.
This is a brief history of Texas. Texas was originally owned by Mexico in the early 1800s, and then Mexico opened up its borders to allow American settlers to come in from the lower South and upper South. In the 1840s, we do see settlers from Europe coming in. Their native tongues were eventually lost, however, and both Spanish and English were widely used in Texas. We see a lot of bilingualism, we see a lot of dialects mixing, and we see a lot of borrowed words, such as mesa, meaning table in Spanish, which refers to this, there's a landscape formation back there that you can't really see, and remuda, which means a herd of horses. In 1845, Texas is annexed into the United States. Mexico and the United States are then in a war, which was eventually resolved with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848. There was not an official winner, quote unquote, but the United States made out much better as they got so much land, including Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, so on and so forth. In the 1910s and 20s, we see Mexican settlers coming into Texas after the Mexican Revolution. More recently, as of the 1990s, we see immigrants coming in from Mexico and Central America. They continue to come into Texas, and our dialect is still being shaped by these immigrants and, of course, the people living there, and also the people from the United States who migrate to Texas. They also help to shape that dialect.
The phonological characteristics of Texan English is the blending of vowels, vowel mergers of monophthongs, and flattening of vowels. Instead of far, they'll say fire. Instead of when, they'll say win. Instead of fill, they'll say feel. And pie is paw, and windshield is windshield. Then they draw out the vowels. This is called a southern drawl. Um, this vowel will sound like e and and then the next vowel will sound like and y. And the endings of words that end in en become in, like pen becomes pin, and then they emphasize the first syllable in words. Another language characteristic is their lexicon. They like to say fixin' to, which means about to, blue northerner, reckon, which means think, might, could, howdy, and y'all. Texans have a lot of Spanish influence. They would say tamale, bronco, these Spanish words like bueno and adios.
Some Texan pragmatics that we see, Texans will say howdy to each other when greeting each other. They also follow a lot of more traditional social rules, so you'll hear a lot of sir and ma'am, a lot of please, thank you, firm handshakes, and saying hello and goodbye to strangers.